Mercifully, the threat was never executed, and he heard no more of the matter. How easy it is to begin to wonder why Christmas Evans should have had all this worry, but he himself knew. I know not what would have become of me, had it not been for these furnaces in which I have been tried, and in which the spirit of prayer has been excited and exercised in me. He had now laboured so long, and with so much blessing in Anglesey, apart from those called by grace. Under his preaching, 28 men had begun themselves to preach, that it might have been thought that he would finish his days there. But clouds of trouble were now thickening round him. Severe eye trouble threatened completely to blind him. For a period of 9 months he was unable to preach, most of the time being spent in hospital at Aberystwyth. The churches, established under his ministry, to whom he was a father, grew restive and self-willed, resenting his guidance and refusing his advice. He had never enjoyed much of this world's goods or comforts, but he might have expected that his last days would be spent peacefully and joyfully among the churches for whom he had done so much. But it was not to be so. Yet, though brought so low, he did not sink. He had never built his hopes on either the faithfulness of men or the spirituality of the churches. His hopes had a surer foundation, even Christ himself. Also, he had never been permitted to be carried away by the tremendous popularity he enjoyed. He was kept beneath the sacred influence of the truth he believed and preached. He had never sought popularity, rather that the truth might be blessed to those to whom he preached. So the Lord lifted him above grief and disappointment and unfriendliness and the dictatorship and impertinence of deacons and church members. Nevertheless, magnifying his office as a servant of the Most High God, he felt he could not yield to the spirit of turbulence and faction, and so at last he was compelled and constrained to leave. Thus his faithful ministry was removed from Anglesey, and Anglesey soon, yet too late, regretted the removal. Everything, he wrote, now conspired to induce my departure from the island. The unyielding spirit of those who had oppressed and traduced me, and my own state of mind, fully believing that there was yet more work for me to do in the harvest of the Son of Man. My earnest prayers for divine guidance during 1 whole year, and the vision of my head at night in my bed, all worked together towards this result. William Morgan, who had recently settled as the pastor at Holyhead, wrote, "It was an affecting sight to see the aged man, who had laboured so long and with such happy effects, leaving the sphere of his exertions under these circumstances, having laboured so much to pay for their meeting houses, having performed so many journeys to South Wales for their benefit, having served them so diligently in the island and passed through so many dangers. Now, some of the people withheld their contributions to avenge themselves on their own father in the gospel. Others, while professing to be friends, did little more. While he, like David, was obliged to leave his city, not knowing whether he should ever return to see the ark of God, and his tabernacle in Anglesey again. Whatever misunderstanding there was between Mr. Evans and some of his brethren, it is clear that his counsels ought to have been received with due acknowledgment of his age and experience, and that his reputation should have been energetically vindicated. I am of opinion, I am quite convinced, that more strenuous exertions should have been made to defend his character and to bear him in the arms of love through the arches, and not to have permitted him to fall in the street without an advocate. So, in the year 1826, Christmas Evans left his beloved Anglesey, cast down but not destroyed. What was it that bore up his wounded spirit? He himself tells us, "Nothing could preserve me in cheerfulness and confidence under these afflictions, but the assurance of the faithfulness of Christ." And again, as soon as I went into the pulpit during this period, I forgot my troubles and found my mountain strong. I was blessed with such heavenly unction, and I felt the truth like a hammer in power, and the doctrine distilling like the honeycomb, and like unto the rarest wine. His reasons for leaving Anglesey were especially that the churches over which he was overseer began to assert their independence, appoint their own ministers, even against Christmas Evans's advice, and generally to resent his control. He was even accused of doctrinal unsoundness, and happenings of over 30 years before, and they were untrue, were raised against him. We can understand the venerable minister being bitterly grieved and hurt, but infallibility belongs only to God, and it would seem clear that Christmas Evans, godly man, great man, was not always at his best in dealing with people and in organizing, sometimes touchy or tactless. Also, the system of church order he sought to perpetuate was a strange one. Believing the churches were feeble, he would not agree to complete independency, but instead on having a measure of control, a situation which would not continue forever among Baptist churches. Even the best would not tolerate a particular Baptist pope.